Subscribe because it's free.
Darkness stretched across the void, broken only by the faint glow of distant stars. The Varkai Dominion, rulers of 100 systems, had conquered lesser species with ease. They had fought, crushed, and absorbed civilizations that dared challenge their might. But on this day, something had arrived that did not fit the pattern. The anomaly appeared on the outermost edge of their territory. It was massive, larger than any warship in the Dominion's Grand Fleet. Yet its form was wrong. No energy spikes, no visible shield barriers, no standard exhaust signatures. It moved without propulsion, as though space itself bent to its will. The Dominion High Command gathered, their reptilian eyes fixed on the shifting data feeds. Scanners struggled to lock onto the object. One moment, it registered as a lifeless derelict. The next, as a singularity of condensed mass. This cannot be correct, one of the analysts hissed. No ship should read this way. It has no power fluctuations, no biological life signatures. Nothing. The War Council, the ruling body of the Varkai military, watched in silence. The fleet station at the border was vast, bristling with weapons capable of reducing planets to ash. Against any known enemy, victory was certain. Yet, the longer they observed the anomaly, the less sure they became. A decision was made. A squadron of scout ships was deployed, each vessel armed and shielded against potential threats. They would scan it up close, determine its origins, and, if necessary, eliminate it. They never returned. The last transmission was a burst of static, a fleeting moment of garbled screaming, and then nothing. No debris, no escape pods, just the cold silence of space, as if the ships had never existed at all. Panic gripped the command deck. The Dominion had encountered formidable enemies before, but nothing erased fleets without a trace. The fleet admiral, an aging warrior with scars across his scaled face, stepped forward. If it refuses to answer hails and destroys our scouts, we have our answer. Fire a warning shot. Let it know where it stands. The order was given. A long-range energy lance, powerful enough to cripple a dreadnought, lanced through the void, aimed at the silent monolith. Then reality twisted. The blast never reached its target. Instead, it simply vanished, as the space itself had swallowed it whole. The war room fell into stunned silence. Impossible, a technician muttered, recalibrating sensors in vain. It didn't deflect. It didn't absorb. It just ceased to exist. Then, without warning, the readings shifted. The ship moved, not in a way any Dominion vessel did. There was no acceleration, no inertia, just motion. One moment it was distant. The next it was there, close, watching. The Admiral felt a rare, unfamiliar sensation crawl down his spine. Dread. A transmission came through, but not from the Dominion's comm channels. It came from the ship itself, using their own frequencies. No code, no introduction, no demands, just one phrase. A voice, cold mechanical, yet unmistakably human, spoke in their own tongue. You started this war. The bridge fell into chaos. High-ranking commanders shouted orders. Entire fleets scrambled into defensive formations. Alarm klaxons blared across capital ships as weapons powered up, targeting the entity that should not exist. But it was already too late. The ship responded, but not with words. It acted. In an instant, the Dominion's lead battlecruiser, a vessel that had laid waste to countless enemies, simply ceased to be. No explosion, no wreckage, just absence. 1 second it was there, bristling with weapons, filled with thousands of warriors. The next, it was erased from existence, as though the universe had rewritten itself to remove it. For the first time in living memory, the Dominion fleet hesitated. This was not war. This was something else. Another transmission crackled through their comms. We are here to finish it. And then the killing began. The fleet had no time to react. One moment, they were an armada, hundreds of warships, bristling with weapons, a force that had shattered empires. The next, they were dying. The human battleship did not fire in the conventional sense. There were no energy discharges, no missile trails, no visible weapons arrays. Instead, ships ceased to function. Their reactors flickered out. Their shielding systems collapsed. Metal hulls groaned as unseen forces crushed, twisted, and shattered them like dried leaves. The Varkai admiral bellowed commands, desperate to form a counterattack. All ships full assault. Overwhelm it now. The fleet obeyed. Every weapon discharged at once. A storm of plasma, antimatter warheads, kinetic rail slugs, enough firepower to reduce a planet to rubble, surged toward the unknown ship. The void burned. The battlefield became a supernova of destruction, and yet nothing touched it. The moment the weapon struck the ship's surface, reality warped. Explosions unraveled before they could form. Beams of light bent, spiraling into nothingness. Projectiles slowed, halted, then reversed course, sent hurtling back toward the Dominion fleet at impossible speeds. The first wave of archive vessels was annihilated by their own firepower. Panic rippled through the surviving commanders. This was beyond technology, beyond war. This was something else entirely. "Break formation!" the admiral roared. "Evade! Evade!" The fleet scattered, ships twisting and banking in desperate maneuvers. But movement did not matter. The human warship did not chase. It did not pursue. It simply moved, and wherever it appeared, ships died. A destroyer's hull imploded inward, as if an invisible hand had crushed it from inside. A battle cruiser began folding into itself. Its crew's screams abruptly cut short as it blinked out of existence. The surviving commanders finally understood. This wasn't a battle. This wasn't a contest of firepower, tactics, or brute force. This was a demonstration. The ship wasn't fighting them. It was proving a point. The admiral gritted his teeth, his scaled hands clenched into fists. He had fought in countless wars, had seen planets burn, had commanded fleets that drowned civilizations in fire. And yet, in this moment, he understood what it was to be prey. The Dominion had always believed themselves to be superior, unchallenged rulers of the stars. But now, they were facing something that did not see them as an enemy, only as an obstacle. "We have to run," one of his officers gasped. "We have to warn the Council." Running was dishonorable. Cowardice was unthinkable. And yet, every survival instinct screamed for retreat. The order was given. The remaining ships turned, engines flaring as they fled into the darkness. They had to get away. They had to escape this nightmare. And yet, the human ship did not follow. It allowed them to run. As the last survivors fled toward Dominion-controlled space, a final transmission crackled through their comms. "You will not outrun this." Then silence. The human battleship turned and vanished, dissolving into the void like a specter. The Dominion fleet, once invincible, was no more. The surviving ships limped into Dominion space, their hulls scarred, their crews shaken beyond reason. The once proud fleet was reduced to a handful of terrified vessels, their captains whispering the same thing over and over. It wasn't a warship. It was something else. The warning reached the Varkai High Command. The Dominion, a civilization that had crushed countless species under its heel, now faced something they could not understand. Panic spread through the halls of power. The supreme warseer, an ancient strategist who had overseen centuries of conquest, demanded an immediate counteroffensive. Summoned the full fleet, every warship, every orbital cannon, every planetary defense system. "We will burn this human construct out of existence." The order was obeyed. Within hours, thousands of warships stood in formation around the Dominion's capital world. The entire military might of the Varkai assembled for a final stand. The Emperor himself watched from his throne, his golden war crest gleaming under the battle lights. Then the sky darkened. The human ship had arrived. There was no warning, no hyperspace rupture, no gravitational disturbance. It simply was. Massive, silent, watching. The fleet opened fire instantly. The entire Dominion armada unleashed a barrage of destruction. Planetary defense grids, capable of turning moons into dust, lit up the void. Every gun, every missile, every energy cannon was fired in unison. It did not matter. The moment the weapons touched the ship, they ceased to exist. Not deflected, not absorbed, unmade. And then it responded. The Varkai had always believed in overwhelming force. Now, For the first time, they learned what it was like to be on the receiving end. Ships crumpled inward, their own mass folding in on itself. Entire dreadnoughts collapsed into singularities, vanishing into pinpricks of infinite density. Fleets disintegrated like dust in a solar wind. On the surface, the Emperor watched in horror as his empire's last line of defense disintegrated in minutes. The war seer, the architect of countless victories, stood frozen, his mind unable to process what he was seeing. "This is not war," he whispered. "This is annihilation." Then the human ship descended. The capital's planetary shields, unbreakable for millennia, flickered once. Then they vanished. The Emperor clenched his fists. He would not surrender. He could not. He turned to his generals. "We fight to the last soldier. We will not kneel." The ground forces mobilized. Tens of millions of elite warriors stood ready. Every turret, every artillery cannon, every orbital platform targeted the descending warship. The city trembled as the first strike hit, but it did not come from a human ship. It came from the air itself. The skies shattered, space twisted into impossible angles, the fabric of reality warping like liquid. Buildings imploded without impact, their atoms scattering like dust. Entire battalions were lifted into the air, then simply ceased to be. The war, the Dominion's last war, was over. The Emperor sank to his knees, watching his world collapse around him. The last thing he saw was a human ship hovering above the ruins, unmoving, unstoppable. A final transmission played across all Dominion channels. "You wanted war. We gave you extinction." Then silence. The Dominion was dead. Its capital world lay in ruins. Its war fleets, erased. The great Varkai Empire, once feared across the stars, was now nothing but memory and dust. But the human ship did not leave. It remained above the shattered world, silent and unyielding, as if watching, as if waiting. Across what remained of the Dominion's outer colonies, survivors received the final transmission. It was not a declaration of victory, nor a demand for surrender. It was a warning. This was justice. This was balance. This was consequence. Let it be remembered. And then it vanished. No explosion. No hyperspace rupture. Just gone. For the first time in thousands of years, the Varkai were no longer conquerors. They were the conquered. The survivors gathered in the wreckage, their scale bodies trembling as they whispered among themselves. No one spoke of revenge. No one spoke of retaliation. The idea was unthinkable. How could they fight something that did not play by the rules of war? The Dominion had crushed species that resisted. They had enslaved civilizations that fought back. But humans had done neither. They had not conquered. They had not occupied. They had not taken prisoners. They had simply removed the Dominion, as if it were an error in the universe itself. This was not a war story. This was a lesson, and that lesson would spread. From one surviving Varkai to another, from broken colony to broken colony, across the wreckage of a once great empire. The message was clear. Do not provoke humanity. Do not seek their worlds. Do not test their patience. For the first time in history, the stars belonged to someone else, and everyone knew it.